early 1942, the experiences of American soldiers, sailors, and Marines in the jungles of Burma and Thailand created bonds that continued to endure and were closer than blood. These young men were Depression-era children. They were tough, resilient, and were subjected to a brutal Japanese military machine determined to create a new world order in the Pacific region of the world. One of the most extraordinary accomplishments of World War II was the construction of the Thai Burma Death Railway. Using only primitive tools, forced labor, and no regard for human life, the imperial nation of Japan built a railway 260 miles long through one of the most rugged and disease-ridden areas of the world in an incredibly short span of 12 months. What was the cost? A life for every sleeper, or railroad tie laid over its most difficult sections of the railway. The Thai Burma Death Railway was brought to life in the 1957 Oscar-winning film Bridge Over the River Kwai. However, the film only told part of the story, giving the impression that all the POWs working on the railway were British. In fact, there were other Allied troops who worked alongside one another: the Americans, the Australians, the Dutch, and Asian laborers slaved away together in the jungle camps. This is the story of 668 American men who built the Thai Burma Death Railway. The surviving 292 sailors and Marines from the sunken cruiser USS Houston, hull number CA-30, as well as the 445 members of the 2nd Battalion, 131st Field Artillery Regiment of the Texas National Guard, known as the Lost Battalion. The intention of this documentary is to share the details of their lengthy ordeal and living terror in building the Railway of Death through the eyes of the American POW. Their story begins with their capture in Indonesia and ends with their liberation 42 months later. Working on the Death Railway was one of the cruelest sentences a prisoner of war could endure, and perhaps the harshest treatment imposed on soldiers in the 20th century. Thousands of Allied soldiers and Asian laborers died in the jungles of Burma and Thailand. More than 130 Americans, 1 man in 5, never returned home, victims of neglect, starvation, and disease, as well as the daily physical abuse and heinous methods of torture. These American men who survived Japanese captivity remained disciplined and bonded together as prisoners under the most punishing conditions imaginable. The camaraderie, selfless sacrifice, and attempts to escape are told here by the men who lived this horrific event in building the most ambitious engineering project that would shock the world with the knowledge of what men are capable of inflicting on their fellow man.